Waiting patiently. Senator Dolan, please.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach, for the opportunity, and thank you, Minister. Look, we're tied for time. There's two questions I'm going to put to the Minister, and I'll make some comment. One is in relation to the cuts to services and that have already been announced. Have they been risk assessed in terms of access for people with disabilities? That's one question. And the other one is, given that people with disabilities are a stakeholder in all of this as members of the public, to use a public service, the public good has already been expressed. And it's the question that I put to you in the Shannon recently. I think it would be really useful if you came back and set out what you're going to be doing year by year in relation to making public transport accessible for people with disabilities in line with the Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities. Let me get into it. People have already talked about Route 717, indeed you have yourself. Clonmel, Dublin Airport. There's a private operator there. My understanding is that they don't have accessible vehicles. Route number 7, expressway service Clonmel, Dublin Airport, that's an accessible fleet. That's being taken offline. And both those operators are licensed as public service operators, so they should be operating on an even keel and making sure disabled people can participate in that. Automated voice systems alerting passengers with hearing and visual issues. My understanding is that the system is in place and it's not actually being used. These are some of the issues that aren't going to get solved in the next week or two, but they are issues about the accessibility of a public service for all members of the public, young and old. Drivers not being trained to use the wheelchair lifts, and there is the driver competency, the whole driver competency training, professional bus driver, professional competence, and that. There's a module in there about drivers being able to assist people with disabilities and whatever. My understanding is that that module is not being provided to drivers, and it's supposed to be under the EU regulations that we've taken on. I've mentioned also the issue of here in Dublin Bus and in other the city fleets, there is great provision, long-standing provision for people with disabilities, people in wheelchairs, having accessible spaces. But they're often used by other people, and at the moment there is no way to prevent other people from using those spaces.
Senator, there's much time for response now.
So that is an issue.
Minister, there's a minute to respond. So
just thank you very much, Cathaoirleach, for that. And so there were just two questions, and they can be dealt with quickly.
Yes, Senator Dolan, I can't answer all your questions, but I will get it for you. Specifically because you're asking about specific routes and specifically.
I don't expect them to be answered.
I've made it plain to the bodies involved, CIE and others, the importance which we attach to them being accessible. That public transport is as accessible.
Sorry, Minister, could we just make sure that our phones are turned off, please? Because they interfere, as you know. Okay, thank you, Minister.
But all new infrastructure, as I think you probably know, is built to be accessible, for example, Lewis and others like that. It doesn't answer your questions in terms of the specific routes that you're talking about or the specific breaches of possible not complying with disability rules. But what I will do is I'll get your response to them because I actually don't know the answers now. It's too early to say.
The new arrangements for Clonmel, Dublin, etc. Is it a fact that people with disabilities, mobility impaired passengers, are not going to be able to use the new arrangements? That's a very important question today.
I think that's a matter for the NTA, but I will find out for you.
Well,
I will find out for you.
You do have responsibility for. I'm very clear what you're saying about not getting in and managing for managers, but you are the person who stands over the public interest. Disabled people should not be. Could it be the case that is it the case that that there was an accessible service that is now gone because of the changes. And I'm not trying to score, but that's a real issue, and I leave it at that, Cahill.
Yeah, I don't know, because it's too soon to know, but I will find out.
It's not too soon. I mean, the decision has been made.
Yeah, of course. But the NTA, I will find out, and I will find out, and I will certainly convey your views and support them, because I think you're right.
Thank you. Deputy O'Keefe, I'm very